message this morning is titled, What Are You Thinking? And I want to start by reading a story to you. I'm going to come down a little bit closer because it's a picture book, and I don't know if you'll be able to see the pages, the pictures from where you are, but I'm going to do that. I hope this works. One day, Tiger got out of bed on the wrong side. Drat, he said, it's going to be one of those days. And he was right. At breakfast, he heard his parents arguing again. They paid no attention to him. It was like he wasn't even there. I might as well be a ghost, he thought. At school, Tiger was picked last at games. It hurt his feelings. He felt awful. After school, his best friend decided to play with Zebra. Tiger felt rotten as can be. Everything was terrible. Nobody cares and nobody likes me. Tiger felt angry tears welling up in his eyes. Suddenly, there was a ripple in the water. It was Turtle. What's up? Turtle asked. Nothing, said Tiger. Well, if nothing can make you cry, tell me more about this nothing. It must be very powerful. It's just that nobody cares, Tiger sobbed. Nobody likes me. Nobody cares if I'm around or not. Life is so unfair. Said Turtle. You say that nobody cares about you and nobody likes you? Is that true? Are you sure? Yes, said Tiger. My parents don't even know I'm around. Nobody likes me at school, and now my best friend is playing with Zebra. Well, that sounds pretty bad, Turtle said. But can you absolutely know it's true that there's nobody in the whole world who cares about you or likes you? Tiger thought about it and realized that he couldn't be absolutely sure. Well, no, I can't. Not really, he said. So it's not true that nobody cares about you or likes you, right? Asked Turtle. How does it feel inside when you believe the thought that nobody cares and nobody likes you? I feel bad, lonely, and rotten, said Tiger. It makes me really sad. That must be terrible, said Turtle. Isn't it amazing what a little thought can do to you? Now, how does it feel if you're not thinking the thought that nobody cares and nobody likes you? Who would you be if you could never believe that thought again? Tiger's eyes brightened. I would be a happy tiger. I would feel great and I could do anything and nothing would bother me. Tiger paused for a moment. That's amazing, he said. So it's not my parents or my friends who bug me. It's just my thinking about them that makes me mad. Wow, that's cool. That's really cool. You got it, said Turtle. It's your thinking. Now let's try something different. You think that nobody cares and nobody likes you. Can you turn this thought around? Can you find the opposite? Tiger thought for a moment. Like, somebody cares and does like me? Yes, said Turtle. Could that be true? Can you think of 3 examples of how your parents have shown you that they like you? Tiger didn't have to think long. They never forget my birthday, he said. They take me on great vacations, and they give me the best hugs in the world. They don't just care about me, they really love me. How about your best friend? Asked Turtle. Can you find 3 examples with him? Well, yes, said Tiger. He always saves a seat for me on the school bus. We're great game buddies, and he says he really likes to play with me. And at school, Turtle asked, is there anyone who likes you and cares about you? Well, I think my teacher likes me, said Tiger. She loves my drawings. And Rhino wants to sit next to me at lunch. And Elephant always tells me secrets. I think she likes me a lot. Now, find another turnaround for nobody cares and nobody likes me, Turtle said. Tiger said, like I care and I like everybody? Well, that would be a bad idea, would it? Turtle said with a smile. And if it's not true for you now that you like everybody, how about I care and I like somebody? I'm sure you can think of a lot of folks that you like. Yes, said Tiger. Then he thought for a moment and laughed. I can think of another turnaround. You can, said Turtle. Yes, how about I care and I like myself? Wow, that's the best of all, Turtle said. How would you do that? I'll always find out if my bad thoughts are true or not, but I already know that they probably never are. Amazing how clever little tigers are these days, said Turtle. The end. But really the beginning. We all know that life includes suffering and how suffering is a part of life for each one of us. I want to tell you about Byron Katie, who helped write this book. Have you heard the name Byron Katie? It's a woman. I remember reading about her name one time, but I can't remember. I think Byron's her first name, Katie's her middle name, and she goes by Byron Katie. But Byron Katie was a really depressed woman. She was so depressed that people didn't like her. I mean, they really didn't like her, and she knew it. She was so unpleasant and discouraging and discouraged that her own family didn't like her. She ended up in, I'm going to call it like a halfway house for people with some mental issues. And the people in this halfway house didn't like her so much that they put her up in the attic by herself. Very unpleasant woman. And she knew that people didn't like her. And she slept in this room, and it had cockroaches up there. And she started sleeping on the floor, and the cockroaches crawled on her because she believed that's what she deserved. And one morning she woke up and she thought, this is not right. This is not right. My thinking is all wrong. And she changed. She started thinking different thoughts. And she was able to go home, and her family, her husband and her children, didn't trust that she was different for quite some time. They had to kind of watch her and be with her and see that she was thinking different, acting different. One time a neighbor came over who had seen so much change in Byron Katie and asked her, what happened to you? And Byron Katie told her about her experience. And more people came to talk to Byron Katie, and today she's internationally known. She goes to other countries to talk about how to change your thinking. In her book, Loving What Is, Katie writes, suffering is optional. Whenever we experience a stressful feeling, anything from mild discomfort to intense sorrow, rage, or despair, we can be certain that there is a specific thought causing our reaction, whether or not we're conscious of it. The way to end our distress is to investigate the thinking that lies beyond it. And anyone can do this by her or himself with a piece of paper and a pen. She calls this the work. And the work has 4 questions, and I put it on the back of the bulletin. They reveal when our thinking is not true for us. You can find her work, you can find out more about the work at www.thework.com. But when we have a negative thought, and let me tell you, this preacher needed to hear this on the way to church this morning. I practiced this on the way. The first question, is it true? And the answer is yes or no. Simple, yes or no. Is that thought true? And sometimes we'll say, well, yes, it's true. I know so-and-so doesn't like me, or I know so-and-so hurt me, or whatever. Then we ask, can you absolutely know it's true? And that takes us to a deeper place of thinking. Can we absolutely know it's true? Like Tiger in the story. He thought his friends didn't like him, his parents didn't like him. And yet when he thought about it, he realized how much his parents really loved him and what friends really liked him, that his teacher liked him. Can you absolutely know that it's true? And the third question is, how do you react? What happens when you believe that thought? When Tiger believed the negative thoughts, he was very sad, discouraged, unhappy, thought nobody cared about him. How do we react when we think the thoughts that we have? And the fourth question is, who would you be without that thought? Tiger was very quick to say, I would be a happy tiger. I would be a happy tiger if I don't think those thoughts. Now, I've seen Byron Katie do this. She has videos on YouTube, working individually, one-on-one with people, going through these questions. And it's fascinating to watch how people, when they start considering what they're really thinking, whether it's true or not. And the last thing is there a turnaround? Can you turn the thought around? A statement can be turned around to the opposite, to the self or to another. And Byron Katie asks to find a minimum of 3 specific and genuine examples of how each turnaround is as true or truer than your original statements. Now, I started doing the work. I haven't done it for some time, but I started doing it when I was still at the retreat center, so maybe 10, 15 years ago. And it really made a difference in my thinking. Is that really true? Can I absolutely know it's true? And who am I when I think that thought? And how would I be without the thought? It's an incredible process to go through. And you write down your answers on paper with pen and go through this process. It's also called the inquiry as well as the work. In doing this process, we discover that all concepts and judgments that we believe or take for granted are distortions of things as they really are. When we believe our thoughts instead of what is really true, we experience the kinds of emotional distress that we call suffering. Suffering is a natural alarm warning us that we are attaching to a thought. When we don't listen to that thought, we come to accept this suffering. When we do listen to the thought, we come to accept the suffering as a part of life, but it's not. Byron Katie says it's not. She offers 5 basic principles to consider. First of all, noticing when our thoughts argue with reality. We might think things like, children should be well behaved. My neighbors should take better care of their yard. The line at the grocery store should move faster. My spouse should agree with me. And I've talked about that word should before. And I've talked about how I have a note on my refrigerator for over a year that said, I will not should on myself. I'm going to think of the organization. It has to do with working against negative communication. Anyway, this organization says that should is one of the most negative words, one of the most harmful words in the English language, because there's an expectation and judgment that we should know better, we should do better. And that all that does is hurt people, ourselves or other people, if we think of other people. These thoughts are our ways of trying to make reality different than it is. It shouldn't have blizzard in January. You know, we can't change it. We did have a blizzard in January. Katie has been known as a woman who made friends with the wind. She lives in a desert town that has a lot of wind, and everybody around her hated the wind. Byron Katie, though, made friends with the wind, with the reality of the situation, because she discovered that she didn't have a choice. It's insane to oppose the wind. When she argued with the reality of it, she lost 100% of the time. How do I know the wind is going to blow? Because it blew, and she accepted that. There's nothing that can be done about it. And we can think about that in Kansas as well. The wind blows in Kansas, and there's nothing we can do about it. It's not bad or good, it just is. People think if I simply accept reality, I'll become passive. I won't accomplish anything. I'll give up. The question is, can you really know that's true? Which is more empowering? I wish I hadn't lost my job, or I lost my job, now what can I do? Which is more empowering? The wind is blowing and I hate it, or the wind is blowing? The wind is blowing. This has helped me driving on roads in Kansas, more to the west than to the east, getting behind some sort of a farm vehicle, a combine or something like that. It's no big deal for me anymore. It used to irritate me to go slow behind those. It doesn't anymore, because how long is it going to last? Maybe a mile, maybe 2 miles. Those combines and tractors and stuff aren't on the road that long. They're just getting from here to there. And I often smile and laugh out loud when I get behind a farm vehicle, because it's okay. It's okay. Another principle is staying in your own business. Byron Katie says there's 3 kinds of business: mine, yours, and God's. Much of our stress comes from living outside of our own business. When I think you need a job, or I want you to be happy, or you should be on time, or you need to take better care of yourself, I'm in your business. When I'm worried about earthquakes, floods, war, or when I might die, I'm in God's business. If I am mentally in your business or in God's business, the effect is separation from you or from God, also known as sin, being separated from others or God. If a person is living in their own life, and I'm going to restate this because I have a you in here and I try not to put yous in here. If you are living in your life and I am mentally living in your life, who's around living my life? If I'm in your life and you're in your life, who's living my life? We're both over there in your life. Being mentally in your business keeps me from living my life fully. I'm separated from myself. It's a sin against myself. To think I know what's best for someone else is living outside of my own business. It's pure arrogance and filled with anxiety, tension, and fear. Do I know what's right for me? That's my only business, is considering what's right for me. Third principle, meeting your thoughts with understanding. I don't know if you're familiar with Marcy Shimoff. She's the author of a book titled Happy for No Reason. Marcy says it's important to listen to what we're saying to ourselves. Now, Marcy Shimoff was not a happy woman. She was not as unhappy as Byron Katie. But Marcy realized that she looked at life in a very negative way. But her father was just the happiest man she'd ever seen. And one time she was riding in the car with her dad, and she just asked, "Dad, what does it mean? How do you have a happy life?" And Dad looked at her and said, "You just do it." And she became a happiness researcher. And she wrote this book, Happy for No Reason. And she writes that what's important is listening to what we're saying to ourselves. A thought is harmless unless we believe it. It's not our thoughts, but our attachment to our thoughts that cause suffering. That's on the front of our bulletin. This was from Epictetus, a Greek philosopher from centuries ago. We are not disturbed by what happens to us, but by our thoughts about what happens. It's our thoughts that get us in bad moods, get us discouraged, get us cranky with people. A thought is harmless unless we believe it. A fourth principle is becoming aware of our stories. We all tell ourselves stories, and we often don't even realize we're telling ourselves a story. Marcy Shimoff tells about being a speaker at a large gathering, a very large gathering of people. She was standing on the stage, but 2 rows back there was a man that was listening to her, and he just had like a scowl on his face. He just looked very unhappy, very unpleasant, like, what the heck is she talking about? And she just kept focusing on this man. She kept talking, but her mind, her thoughts were on that guy in the second row that looked unpleasant. And at the end of her talk, this guy was the first one up out of his seat, came up on stage, and she thought, oh my goodness, I'm really going to catch it from this guy now. He doesn't believe the thing I said. He came up to her, reached out his hand, shook her hand, and said, that is the most inspiring thing I've ever heard. It was a story she was telling herself. And we all tell ourselves stories. And stopping and paying attention that we are telling ourselves a story. We don't know that that's true, whatever we're thinking. We don't know. We don't have enough information. We make assumptions about people. Oh, they're always cranky. Well, maybe they were cranky once when we connected with them. But maybe their stomach was upset, or they had a sick child at home, or who knows what. Who knows what. I remember my daughter. She was in, she must have been about the 6th or 7th grade, getting braces. I regret this now in some ways, but not fully. Anyway, she saw the orthodontist, and he was putting the beginning trappings for braces in her mouth. And she came out, she came to me, and she said, Mom, he wouldn't let me cry. And I said, Andy, maybe he had a really bad day before maybe something bad happened at home before he saw you, before he came to work. She was the first patient of the day. I regret now that I didn't take a moment and say, Andy, I hear what you're saying. I'm sorry that he didn't let you cry. I know it's important to do that. Instead, I jumped a step and said maybe he had a bad day. You know, maybe today the language I'd use is maybe she was telling herself a story about the dentist. And I say I regret that because she puts that on me sometimes. If I'll say something about a person, she'll say, well, maybe they had a bad day. And she does it very kindly. She doesn't do it mean or project back on that time, but she remembers that I did that. But it's important to be aware of the stories that we're telling ourselves. There are times I tell myself, well, my daughter is just so busy at school and with the family and all that she's doing, and that's why she doesn't have time for me. But I don't know that's true. She just might not want to come to Pratt. I don't know. But I'm telling myself a story that makes me discouraged, unhappy, cranky, whatever. So becoming aware of our stories is important. When we operate on uninvestigated theories of what's going on and we're not even aware of it, we're in a dream world. We're not in reality. And the fifth principle is looking for the thought behind the suffering. Byron Katie believes that behind every uncomfortable feeling there is a thought that is not true for us. Now, I'm going to say this is not totally 100%, this is not totally unqualified, that there might be times that we're feeling uncomfortable, and there's something really behind it, really and truthfully behind it. The idea is to be aware of what we're thinking, the stories we're telling ourselves, what's going on. Is it true? Can I say it's absolutely true? If I put my hand into a fire, nobody has to tell me to move it. Do I need to decide? No. When my hand starts to burn, it moves. I don't have to direct it. With Byron Katie's The Work, we can come to understand that thoughts cause suffering, and we can move away from it. We can move away from that suffering. Before the thought, we were not suffering. With the thought, we were suffering. When we recognize that the thought isn't true, we are back in the place of not suffering, paying attention to our thoughts. And this is not something we just learn like that. It takes patience, it takes practice to do it. It's not necessarily an easy thing to do, but we can bring ourselves back to a place of no suffering. All of this brings us to loving ourselves. The phrase, love our neighbor, comes first in all, it's an important concept that we learn as Christians, love our neighbor. But there's that little word, love our neighbor as we love ourselves, as we choose to love ourselves. We can and we do have some responsibility in regard to our own suffering. So with these thoughts in mind, I invite you to listen to what you're thinking, to pay attention to what's real and to what's not real. And hang on to Philippians 4:8 that says, finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is pleasing, whatever is commendable, if there is any excellence and if there is anything worthy of praise, think about these things. We can set aside those thoughts that bring us suffering and come to a place of reality and truth. And with that, amen. Amen.